This story is based on reports sent in by our subscribers and edited by me. The names have been changed to protect anonymity. If you would like your story to be told here, feel free to contact us. We would be delighted to hear from you. Subscribe to the channel and don't forget to like. So, let's get started. Growing up with Laura was like living in an eternal spring. Light, beautiful, with the scent of newly blossomed flowers. We laughed about everything, shared secrets, clothes, and even dreams. Our connection was so strong that sometimes just a glance was enough to know what the other was thinking. We lived in a small town on the outskirts of Madrid, where everyone knew each other. Laura spent more time at my place than at her own, because the atmosphere there was, let's say, turbulent. Here, she found peace, and, over time, affection as well, from me, my mother, and Javier. Oh, Javier, my stepfather, tall, with a gaze that seemed to see beyond the surface, and a smile that had the power to make the air feel warmer, even in winter. He was always affectionate with me, present, attentive, but it was only as I grew older and started to understand certain things that I realized just how intriguing he was. The kind of man who knows what to say, when to say it, and how to say it, if you know what I mean. It was during one of those quiet nights, while Laura and I were watching a movie on the couch, that something changed. We were lying on the cushions, laughing and talking about the actor on the screen, when Xavier walked into the room after his shower, wearing only a towel around his waist, water droplets running down his chest. The conversation stopped, and so did the air. Laura raised an eyebrow and gave me that mischievous look, like someone already thinking of something silly. And I admit, my thoughts had also wandered to more slippery places. Javier greeted us with a distracted smile, and I swear his eyes lingered half a second too long on Laura's neckline. After he went upstairs, we stayed silent, until she whispered, with that amused glint in her eyes, "He's sexy, isn't he? Like a real man, no joke. Honey, let's try to pretend I'm not as red as I feel. And on top of that, he makes crepes on Sundays," I replied teasingly. "A walking hazard, if you know what I mean." Laura smiled and bit her lip. At that moment, I realized that something inside us had awakened, a new fire, strange and deliciously forbidden. After that night on the couch, something changed between Laura and me. We started to look at Xavier with different eyes, more attentive, hungrier eyes. And the most curious thing is that between the two of us, this shared desire didn't create distance. It created a sense of complicity. The next morning, he appeared in the kitchen with his white shirt half unbuttoned, revealing tanned skin and a neck that seemed like an invitation. Laura and I exchanged silent glances as he stirred his coffee, as if he wasn't aware of the fire he was causing simply by being there, so unassumingly. "Or not so much. Did you sleep well?" he asked, with that deep voice that resonated where it shouldn't. "I dreamed of hot things," Laura replied, hiding a yawn. He smiled, not knowing how much that answer revealed more than he imagined. Or maybe he did know. Who knows to what extent men notice and pretend to be innocent, if you know what I mean. In the days that followed, the teasing intensified. We spent more time in short shorts and tight t-shirts, acting as if it was just because it was summer. But it was a different kind of heat that was taking over us. A heat that would arise whenever Xavier walked a little too close. When the scent of his cologne lingered on our sheets even though he had never set foot there, at least, not yet. One afternoon, Laura showed up in my room with a plan. "Let's test him, see how far he'll go." I pretended to hesitate, but deep down my body had already answered before my mouth did. "Only if we do it together, like always." We went down to the living room in provocative clothes. Javier was reading on the couch, his glasses perched on the tip of his nose, which only made him even more intellectually debauched. We sat on either side of him, smiling nonchalantly. But we wanted everything. Laura let her hand slide over his thigh, as if to adjust the cushion. I laughed softly and lay down, letting my head rest on his knees, feigning innocence. "Are you comfortable?" he asked, tense. "With you. Always," I murmured, gazing deeply into his eyes. The silence between us was full of promises. The game was underway, and neither of us seemed ready to stop. That night was etched onto my skin like a scent that refuses to fade. The silence of the house was broken only by the whisper of our unspoken desires. Javier seemed to read our thoughts, or perhaps our appearance revealed more than we cared to admit. The next morning, Laura appeared in my room wearing her white shirt, far too big for her body, and with the buttons strategically fastened. She gave me a mischievous smile and threw herself onto the bed next to me. "He left you wanting more, didn't he?" she teased, laughing, with that look of someone who knew exactly what she was doing. I swallowed hard, trying to hide the shiver that ran down my spine. "And you? Are you going to pretend you weren't just standing there, waiting to be noticed?" Laura bit her lip, moved closer slowly, and her voice came out as a mischievous whisper. "Maybe I just wanted to watch from the front row, if you know what I mean." The air between us grew heavy, almost liquid. Our fingers brushed, by accident or not, and took a second longer than expected to pull away. That's when Xavier appeared at the door, with a tray of coffee and that lazy smile that put all judgment on alert. "Did I interrupt something?" he asked, his eyes darting between us. Laura answered before I could. "We were just warming up. The atmosphere." He set the tray down on the dresser and approached with the calm of someone who owns the room. I felt myself melt just from his touch on my chin. And then, without saying a word, he looked at us as if to invite or challenge us. That's when I realized it was no longer about competing for space in Xavier's heart. It was about discovering how far we would go together, and with him. And honestly, the idea excited me more than it scared me. As his fingers lightly traced the curve of my waist, Laura whispered close to my ear, "I think this morning will be fruitful, if you know what I mean." And at that moment I realized that the real game was only just beginning. The air felt thicker that morning, as if every particle was charged with intention. Laura kept whispering things in my ear, while Xavier, between sips of coffee and sidelong glances, teased us with his silence. He approached her from behind, his fingers lightly tracing the fabric of her shirt, which covered only the essentials, or almost. My gaze followed every movement, mesmerized. Then he looked up at me, and, with a half smile, said, "I think we have something unresolved here, and I hate leaving details hanging." Laura laughed, turned around slowly, and faced him. The atmosphere was full of suspense, not the kind you fear, but the kind you long for intensely. I sat up in my bed, feeling my skin tingle with impatience. He came closer to me, knelt down, and ran his fingers lightly along my thigh, as if tracing a map he already knows but wants to rediscover. "You have fire in your eyes," he whispered, "and I love playing with fire." I moved closer to his face, feeling the heat of our mingled breaths. Laura, beside me, ran her hand over my shoulders, leaving a trail of goosebumps. "What if we set all this on fire together?" she asked, her voice low and her eyes hungry. There was no turning back. Xavier's touch on me, combined with Laura's magnetic presence, felt like electricity on my skin. Their bodies instinctively sought each other out, and every sigh seemed to say more than words ever could. Hands explored secret territories. Glances exchanged silent promises. Javier pulled me a little closer, while Laura lay down on the other side, as if inviting me to take a plunge. One of those plunges where you don't know if you'll ever come back up. And it was in this game of caresses, glances and half smiles that I heard Javier whisper, "You are both a temptation." a temptation that no sane person would refuse. If you know what I mean. And yes, oh, I understood. I understood every gesture, every intention. The question was, how far were we willing to go? And deep down, I already knew the answer. When Xavier whispered that, something inside me lit up. The tension built up in the glances, in the touches, and in the subtext finally reached its breaking point. The room seemed smaller, stifled by the heat radiating from bodies or intentions. Laura came up behind me, her lips brushing my neck with an almost indecent gentleness. Her fingers slid along my curves, as if searching for a secret hidden in the cracks of my skin. Javier, in front of me, kept his eyes fixed on me, while his fingers played with the waistband of my shorts, as if silently asking, "May I?" "There is no right or wrong here," Laura said, biting my earlobe. "Only what we feel. And I feel everything, if you know what I mean." I closed my eyes and surrendered. Javier came closer with the intensity of a midnight tide, his lips exploring paths I didn't even know existed. Their intertwined, combined touches made me lose all sense of time or logic. The sheets became pathways of pleasure. Hands turned into compasses guiding sensations. Every movement was a whispered invitation to push the boundaries of what we already knew. Our naked bodies intertwined as if it were a dance of pure pleasure. I felt inexplicable sensations, and Laura felt an unexplainable warmth. We took turns staying with Javier. He was apparently very tired, but happy. His smile expressed pure happiness. Laura moved over me with the lightness of someone who knows exactly the effect she has. Javier held me tightly by the waist, as if he were anchoring something precious on the verge of being swept away by the current. The three of us moved as if in a dance of will, warm, slow, and full of meaning. "You like that, don't you?" He said it with that mischievous smile, his eyes half closed. "I can see it in the way your skin reacts, and you have nothing to say. Your body is already speaking for you." And it did speak. Every shiver, every sigh, every moan swallowed by the sheets was an unwritten chapter of this story. There, at the center of that hurricane of meaning, there was no longer right or wrong, nor doubt, only pure, raw, and consensual desire. A meeting of bodies, yes, but above all, a meeting of aligned wills, if you know what I mean. And that's how we ended up exhausted, in sync, satisfied, but with that spark in our eyes, like someone who still wants more. And that's all for today. This story is over, but if you click on the video above, you can find more stories like this one. Thank you to everyone who left a comment. Don't forget to like the channel and subscribe so you don't miss my next videos.